Hello and welcome to the first episode of A Man in His Couch. I'm Ryan Clark. This is my couch. Today's episode, we're going to talk about how the month of April was very good to Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook, Aaron Rodgers situation up in Green Bay, and my thoughts on the NFL draft. So first thing we're going to start with is Steph and Russell Aprils. I'm going to start with Steph because I think it's the one that gets the most coverage and people know the most about what's going on. So just some numbers. He averaged 37.3 points on 51.8% shooting, 46.6% from three. That's like some people's field goal percentage in the league. And then just under 91% from line. So there's two players now to average 35 points per game, 50% field goal, and 45 from three in a calendar month with a minimum of 10 games. One is April 2021 Steph Curry. The other is February 2016 Steph Curry, his year when he was unanimous MVP. 45% from three is really good. There's very few people who can in the league that can do that, especially for a consistent timeline like Steph. What's even crazier is it's not like he's shooting the open 4 or 5 a game. In fact, he was averaging, hang on, I think I got it in here. He was averaging 13.7 3-point attempts per game. 13.7 threes, not field goals, threes. And he's making that at 46.6%. So that's like averaging about 6 made a game. AKA 18 points just on threes made. It's nuts. He had 10 or more made threes 4 times in the month of April. 4 times he made 10 or more. You know how rare it is to make 10 threes in a game? Only 5 other players in NBA history have ever had multiple games in which they've made at least 10 threes. And of those 5, only one has more games of 10 made threes than Steph had in the month of April. Like for their career. That person's Klay Thompson, who's also on the Warriors, obviously still hurt. But no one has more than 4 games. And he did that in a month. At 33 years old, he now has 21 games in his career where he's made 10 threes. 21. Like, it's insane. And I know he broke the record for most threes in a month. And I know part of that's helped from the fact that the schedule's a little condensed and he had more opportunities. I think he had 14 games in this month. But even with that, like, he's carrying this team so hard when everyone knows all you have to do is to guard Steph. Draymond's not shooting. Wiggins, you want him to shoot? Okay, he's doing better this year. But, you know, if that's your second offensive option, you might have a problem. Wiseman's out for the year. Every game I've watched, it's silly. And we've known this for years. But I think we don't appreciate it as much as we should as fans. How insane of a skill set he has. And how he's able to display it game after game while being the only player. Not the only player. If you're making the NBA, you're a good player. Not be good compared to other NBA players, but you're a very good basketball player. But Steph's help right now is not conducive for a man who just averaged 37 points on those percentages. I personally wouldn't vote him for MVP. I know some people are like, I'm going to be a top 5 ballot. You know, I could believe that. If I had a vote, he would be in my top 5. And, you know, Jokic should be the MVP. And I think he will be. But if someone voted Steph first, I think they'd be wrong. But I wouldn't say that they are completely crazy. I mean, these numbers just don't make sense. Like, and it's, 40 feet, 35 foot. These are hard threes. And he just keeps doing it and doing it. And if it was for him, they would be a bottom 2 team in the West. He's that good. It's kind of like that situation in the early 2000s with Alex Rodriguez when he was still with the Texas Rangers. And they were last place in the American League and he won MVP. I don't think we'll have that situation. But sometimes you can have the best player, most valuable player in the league and still be a bad team. If your team is that hurt, that poorly constructed, the Warriors aren't poorly constructed, they're just hurt. The rhythm's not together. There's some pieces that could definitely change, but when Clay went down, it pretty much ended their season. And I think they all knew that, but I don't think they realized how hard Steph was going to be working to keep this team afloat for a play-in game, which, man, I can't wait for that game. When it's like, hey, Steph, win 2 games in a row and you make the playoffs, he's going to be like, bet. I got this. See here, let me think. I think they're the 9 seed right now, which means they would play the 10 seed, which I know is San Antonio. And then, as of the way it's sitting now, they would play the loser of Portland and... Let me pull it up before I make myself sound stupid. Portland and Memphis. So play against San Antonio Spurs, who I don't see how, if Steph really turns it on, how San Antonio is going to be able to win that game. And then you got to beat the loser of Portland, Memphis. Obviously, these can change everyone between, because Memphis is 13.5 games behind first, Golden State is 14, and Spurs are 14.5. Portland's 10, so they're pretty far ahead, but they're tied with Dallas and the Lakers. So any of those 3 could be the 7th seed very quickly, whereas Memphis, Golden State, San Antonio, any one of them could be the 8th seed. And we can get these situations where we have Steph playing basically like it's Game 7 by himself. And I'm excited. I'm excited. So this month of April is, I think it got washed over. Like, at the beginning of April, everyone realized he was on fire. End of the month kind of tapered down, where NFL draft was coming back. Baseball is, getting more in the swing of things, so less of the spotlight's on Steph. But we're going to look back and be like, that was one of the greatest months of basketball ever. And it's it's a team that's the 10th seed right now. It's funny. Speaking of 10th seed, the other person I want to talk about, Russell Westbrook, is on the Washington Wizards, who are now the 10th seed in the East. Their last 10 games, they're 8-2, though, because they've been on fire, getting back into the possibility to have this play-in game. So Westbrook, in the month of April, played 15 or 16 games, lost the number. He had 14 triple-doubles. 14. 1-4. And I've always thought that triple-doubles, we create this arbitrary milestone where if you hit double digits, it's more important than if it was like 9-9. And I think that's wrong. In some ways, like, it's the average of what should be praised, not necessarily hitting a certain 10 and 10, because that implies that the value of the rebound is significantly greater from 9 to 10 than 10 to 11, per se. We put the emphasis on it because it looks cool on paper, not because the difference between 9 and 10 is significantly more. It's just because our society, we live in base 10, where 10 is just, it looks nicer on paper. All right, that's all I'm going to say about that. And then I know people are going to say Russell Westbrook, stat pads and blah, 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 blah. Okay. he definitely stat pads. But is that a bad thing? Like, if he takes away a rebound from a big guy, like just jumps in his way, his own player, maybe that's a little off. But as a fan, I love the hustle. You know how often we watch players that are just like, I'm going to let that do whatever. Russ doesn't care. He's going to jump. He's going to get that ball. And, sometimes it rubs people the wrong way. People downplay his achievements because of it. But he's never been on the team. I love the Mavericks, but I've always enjoyed watching him just because he plays like he's got a chip on his shoulder the whole time, and it's extremely fun to watch. And what it leads to is triple doubles. Now, obviously, there's probably a little bit in his head where the end of the game, he's like, I need 2 assists, or where I need two rebounds, and he ends up getting them. But even then, if it was so easy, everyone would be doing it, sort of thing. Well, not everyone, but like the top players in the league would be up there with him, but no one is. He's going to average a triple double for the year for like the 4th time in the past 5 or 6 years, I think. He's at like 11, and then I don't remember how many points, but like it's like 21. Yeah, it's 21, 11, 11. So it's not even like 10.1, 10.2. It's 11. It's over 11. So, yeah, it's the Wizards. Yeah, he still shoots a very low percentage. I think he should take less shots. But, he's going to pass Oscar Robertson in the next probably month for most triple doubles of all time. And I never like comparing players because of different eras, because the pace of games change a lot, the style, rules change a lot. So, or like even the fact that triple doubles weren't necessarily counted, but like weren't acknowledged back in Oscar's time. So how many was he a rebound or assist away from that? If everyone had talked about triple doubles, he would have went and got. So that's a question I always have. But a bigger one is just style of play. Now, in Oscar's time, it was very fast paced, and that's how he was able to get a lot of his. And then Russ, we live in this new modern NBA where teams are taking 40, 53s a game, which leads to longer rebounds, which helps out him. Like, he would still get rebounds in any era. Maybe not 11 a game, but he might be 6'3", but he's, like we said, he's putting in that effort, and that hustle is gonna lead to boards. And I know that's what coaches and teammates all love to be around, because every teammate of him ever has said they love playing with him as far as his hustle. Maybe not his shot selection and whatnot, but having that hustle goes a long way in this league. And he has it. So, if it was the 80s, or not 80s, late 80s, early 90s, when it's a lot slower, maybe he has 7 or 8 rebounds a game, which is really good for a guard at 6'3". But in the modern NBA, a lot of longer rebounds. He has more rebounds himself. Assists, players are just shooting better, taking more shots in general, faster pace, more opportunities. It happens. And then again, he's not a good shooter for an NBA player. He's just not. And I think people get caught up in the fact that he takes these shots that he shouldn't statistically be taking, and then they use that to tarnish everything else and say, oh, he's stat padding, he doesn't care about winning and all. He cares about winning. He hasn't won a ring, but he's gonna try hard. And that's what people who want to win do. Try hard. Like, how many games have you watched where LeBron kind of checked it in, or Luka, or like or basically every NBA star has a game or two where they're like, maybe not jump or dive for something or really work hard to get a rebound or a block or defensive play. Russ doesn't have those. Like, you could probably pull up some film and be like, here it is. And I'd be like, all right, you're right. But it's so far less and so less obvious that it's appreciated because it's so fun to watch. And my last point is people who discredit the triple doubles. We're going to talk about Russ and his triple doubles for the next 50, 60 years, just like we do with Oscar. It just is what it is. So if we're going to talk about him 60 years from now, what he did, that means what he did is special. And I think that's what all I got to say about that. So take a break and we'll be back with Aaron Rodgers stuff. All right, I'm back. So Aaron Rodgers situation. So I made an episode. I call this the first episode, but I made an episode on Friday. It's kind of lost in the computer editing area because I didn't know what I was doing. But in there, I said I was going to talk about this on Monday just because all that news came out way too close to the actual draft, which I felt was a bigger story, in the first round especially. So now, after a weekend, I got to think about it more. So this is how I think about it. He's right. I would be frustrated if I were him. These past couple of years, like, he's gotten them to the NFC Championship game so many times. And I feel like quarterback gets overblamed and overpraised for team accomplishments a lot in the NFL. And Rodgers is no different, but the lack of help he's received in the draft. DeVante Adams, yes, he's the best wide receiver in the NFL. You're correct. And like Jones, and they have good players at their skill positions. And I would agree with you. But I wonder how much is because of Aaron Rodgers and how much because DeVante Adams, I think, would be top 3 at any team he was on. But even with that, they still haven't focused on making their star quarterback, them as in the ownership, general manager for the Packers and the rest of the front office. Like, they've been lucky with how much Aaron Rodgers is able to save them from not having skill players around him. They've built a very good team around him, which I'm sure when Aaron leaves will still be a contender in the NFL, maybe not to the same level. But when you have a star like that, you pretty much are required at this point to have them involved in all your decision making, especially someone who's multiple time MVP, Super Bowl champ, long time member like Aaron Rodgers. So for them to go out and just ignore him over and over again, it doesn't feel good. And I understand why he's upset. Since the day he was drafted, he's talked about how he wanted to be a 49er. Because let's say they picked Alex Smith first overall, which was fine. But him being from Cal and not getting picked by 49ers definitely stung him. Definitely remember him dropping all the way in the draft. So since day one, he's basically said he would rather be somewhere else. Like, Packers are a great organization. I bet he's very happy with his time there. But it's not like you have a guy who grew up in Green Bay and is like, I will play with the Packers for the rest of my life. Aaron Rodgers has a timetable before he's too frustrated to stay. He he sees other opportunities. And if you, as a front office, don't come up with these plans that encourage him to stay, he will leave. He's not, like, he's been very loyal, but he's hit his limit of loyalty he can give to the city of Green Bay. And that's understandable. So, going into the draft, you have all this stuff that just pops off. I don't know. Aaron said it. I haven't looked into it. Or if a source said it. The timing was not great. So, Packers go in, their first round draft pick, and they pick a cornerback. Now, I agree, they definitely should have taken the cornerback. There are two positions in the NFL draft that I'm never going to disagree with a team picking. Okay, let me rephrase that. I'm almost never going to disagree with them picking, because I feel like in the modern NFL, you just can't have too many. One is cornerback, and the other is offensive lineman. Good thing Packers definitely picked a lot, because they picked 5 overall. They picked 2 corners, the Georgia and the Appalachian State guy, and they picked 3 offensive linemen. And to be honest, like, the positions the Packers picked are exactly what they needed. They picked the corner, who I know they just re-signed their 2 corners, but again, in the modern NFL, there are 2 positions that just you always need a draft or be adding: cornerback and offensive lineman. The rest of your team can be made up of whatever, as long as your offensive line is strong. Any quarterback, wide receiver, running back are going to look passable. My best example is when DeMarco Murray, who's still a good running back, had his breakout year in Dallas, is the year that the offensive line was by far the best. It's one of those things where, you know, if you picked the greatest running back, say Barry Sanders, but he wasn't behind a good offensive line, blah, 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 he's not going to do as well. If you put an average NFL running back and put it behind a great offensive line, guess what? They're going to do really well. Same with quarterback. Dak Prescott's first year in Dallas was another great year for the Cowboys. If Tony Romo didn't get hurt, he would have broken so many records for the team that year. That offensive line was so stacked. They had Zeke. Dak got the perfect situation. And I know I'm talking about the Cowboys now, but it just points out to how important the Browns have one of the best lines in the league right now. And look what their running back combo, their offense has been doing. Yeah, there's a lot of big names on offense, but big names get slowed down a lot by lines. Just like the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. If you didn't notice, Patrick Mahomes is an insane individual because he almost was able to pull that off with that offensive line. But as you can see, that's how important it is. You could have the best player in football who's literally falling, flipping, and still throwing dimes. But if, that line's not there, it's going to be a struggle. And then the same goes to corner with, all these wide split systems, 3 wide receivers, 4 wide receivers. Having all those extra corners is always valuable. Have, the top one in the league able to shut down the team's best receiver is huge because it opens up so many more options for safeties and coverages. So, and then it opens up opportunities for linebackers to do things, which in turn opens up the defensive line. So those are the 2 positions are always, I'm never going to really question a team doing it. Even the Broncos who picked Surtain when they already had the best secondary in the league, I probably would have gone with Fields in their spot, but in 5 years I might be like, well, good thing with Surtain. There's a way higher floor for Surtain than there is Fields as far as playability in the NFL, because quarterbacks 50-50 shot, they work out if that in the first round, and then cornerbacks usually a little bit better. Like, at worst, Surtain's going to be that third option corner who you're going to have in the game 80% of the time based on how the NFL goes. So that's how I feel on that. So with the Packers, they picked, Eric Stokes out of Georgia, cornerback with their 29th overall pick, who's very good. It was an all SEC corner, I'm pretty sure. And, he's a good corner. Take it. Their second round pick, they went with the center out of Ohio State. One thing about the Packers offensive line that they have a lot of is guards. One thing that needed was tackles. So I'm not a huge fan of picking was it Josh Myers back then? Obviously they just had their center leave. They're all pro center, but this might not have been the correct spot to pick him. He's definitely an NFL player, but maybe not the late second round like that. Their next pick, they traded up so they can get Amari Rodgers from Clemson, who's a slot receiver. Great pickup. Very good pickup. He's only 5'9", but he's a slot receiver, which is very much needed for the offense. I heard a lot of people comparing him to Randall Cobb as far as how he'll work in Green Bay. And, if I'm Aaron, I'm at least okay with this. Would I have, preferred one of the top 3 receivers this year? Yeah, but I don't think they were going to trade up for that. So I think it's a very good spot. I'm happy with that pick. After that, they grabbed the tackle guard out of Mississippi, who, from all accounts, are pretty much. He played a lot of right tackle, but based on his arm length and size, a lot of people are saying he's going to be a guard in the NFL, which again they already have a lot of. They need a left tackle especially, and difference between right and left are sometimes enough depending on the player. It's not an easy transition. So after that, they picked defensive lineman out of Florida, which is it's all right. And then again, the cornerback out of Washington State, which I'm never going to disagree with. Another tackle guard from Wisconsin in the 6th round. Very smart player from all accounts. But again, another player whose size might not lead him to play tackle in the NFL as much as they would need. So basically what I'm saying is they went for 3 offensive linemen, all of which are guards basically. Or they played tackle, but their size doesn't say they should play tackle in the NFL. So they tried to build up their offensive line, but I feel like instead they just bolstered the inside of the line and then left the outsides to kind of figure it out. Maybe all these reports are wrong. Maybe their size, while undersized for the position, might be fine. They won't really know until they get them in camp and start putting them against these defensive linemen, just see how they do. But I feel like there were better options. Now I'm not an NFL expert or college draft expert by any means, so I don't know what they are. But everywhere I'm reading, plus how I'm feeling reading about it, I feel like they could have been better options. So overall, an okay draft. Would have been better if they picked maybe better, different offensive linemen. But pretty good. As far as, the Rodgers situation, that's about as good as he could ask for out of them. Because they weren't going to get a wide receiver that he really wants in the first round. They tried to build up their offensive line, which they needed, and corners are always worth it. So personnel-wise, the past 2 years have been pretty okay. Was last year the Jordan Love year, actually? Yeah, other than that pick was bad. That pick was... I can see why that kind of ruined your relationship with Rodgers. And I understand why you did it as a front office, but I feel like it's probably just a communication error. Like, if you had picked a skill position player in the first round 2 times out of the past 10 years, 3 times out of the past 10 years, I think he would be fine with, oh yeah, that's the future. Okay, he'll sit behind me. But I don't think Rodgers thinks he's retiring for 5-6 years. Unless he's, finally just gets done with it. So maybe the Jordan Love was a little premature, which I agree. But I think the bigger issue is how it was presented to him. How the star player was presented with, hey, here's your replacement. Because as he knows from the Brett Favre situation, it's not always pretty. So that's how I feel about that. So that was an episode of Man in His Couch. My name's Ryan. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Take care.